Thank you for watching. I'm Mike the Man, and this is my channel. You can find me on Twitter at Firetown, and you're welcome to send to me whatever statements you think should be paid more attention to. Now, the Chronicles of Olivia video is what I refer to as the damage control interview. And I have I have transcribed as much as I could fit on this board and still have it be visible or easy to read, halfway easy to read, I hope. Katie Proudfoot was asked, how did you feel that morning? How did you feel when you couldn't find him? Remember the last time I ended the video where she stated that's when he wasn't here, around 6 a.m. when she wants to tell us and wants to make us think that before 6 a.m. she herself had no evidence of anything being wrong, meaning she was asleep. She couldn't have done anything. There's no way she could be involved because from midnight to 6, that's been her priority, to let us know that specific timeline. There are so many things Chris and Katie were not certain about or confused about, but that particular timeline they are adamant about. It has to be that. Now mind you, they have backtracked a few times. The third was mentioned twice. She mentioned a third at 10 p.m. and she confirmed it later. And then she changed it to some noise. So the early interviews are very important to me because both of them are watching what's going on and what people are saying about them. So they know when they messed up, and they are telling a different version according to what they are learning is going to not trigger the public into suspecting them, because that is their priority. Chris has told us, they were asked, what is it like to wake up every morning and go through what you're going through? And of course she referred to the son being still missing, and Chris talked about every morning he gets up, it's very hard to face all the negativity from people. Katie had to interject and say, by the way, my son is still missing, he's still not home. Chris it didn't even register with him that this was supposed to be a painful moment. Simply the same way he talked about Riley's strain, and he can't imagine what the family must be going through. Hello? You should be experiencing the same thing. And if, being the stepfather, you don't feel as close to him, at least you should experience the same thing through your wife, who should be absolutely distraught, like you have never seen anything before. You shouldn't be only able to imagine it. You should be witnessing it firsthand, that your wife is completely in shambles, but they are not. So after that, Olivia was asking, so what was going through your mind that morning? And Katie goes, I was like, holy freaking crap, and choice words. She's telling us she's censoring herself because she obviously was so devastated, as she wants us to think she was, that she was hollering through the house, she was this, she was that. She loves to tell us how emotional she was and how desperate she was, but it doesn't reflect in her direct language. It doesn't reflect in her demeanor. She is good at telling us emergency and this and that. She is good at letting us know through empty words that are not backed up by the rest of the verbiage. Because if the language doesn't express any sense of urgency, then any kind of language that is injected that is supposed to signal emergency needs to be flagged, because there is such a difference between the things that she says. So then she goes she tells us that sometimes he will be dipping behind the walls and trying to scare her and rummaging through the cupboards to look for snacks and so on and so on. But after I looked, and mind you, all this took place in like 1 minute flat. There's already the disclaimer, like 1 minute flat. Okay, so that means, yeah, we cannot really take it serious. Was it less than a minute? Did you even look at all? Are you trying to make me believe, okay, I looked all over through the whole house in only 1 minute. Your son is missing. You looked through this big house, the whole house, and it took you 1 minute flat? Everything else you kind of estimate, right? Like, which is normal. To say about midnight I went to sleep, about everything is about, that's normal, that you don't pay attention necessarily to the exact time, but around the time. But this one she is really certain about, and she's always certain when she is scripted. And she likes the dramatic points. She likes to talk about extra malt and things like that. She loves to feel secure within a statement and then grandstand a little bit, or appeal to the audience, or appeal to the mothers in the audience. Really, 1 minute flat, the whole house. You didn't find him, you gave up that easily, that's already it. You didn't go through the laundry room, you didn't look under all the beds, you didn't, if he had a history of hiding from you, to scare you, how about the yard? Did you look there? Did you look anywhere? Now here's the part that I'm forwarding to. She tells us, of course, how much she is doing, how desperate she is, she's how hollering, and so on and so on. And I've left out part of this because it's redundant, it's repetitive. We see what she's trying to do here. I picked up this part of the interview is so full of ums, and especially in the later part you will see that there are many seconds where she is completely stuck and doesn't know where to go next. And the reason is the script and the memory, experiential memory. There is such a conflict. She doesn't expect all of the questions the way that they come to her. In her mind, she is scripted, but you still don't know exactly how you're going to react when the flow kicks in. There is a certain flow and a certain pattern in every conversation that we have. And that pattern can be, well, you can call it the vibe or something like that. So she was maybe not used to somebody like Olivia who was completely on her side, or she gave 100% benefit of the doubt according to what I've heard in the video, according to the questions that she asked. She knew from the social media activities that people were onto her. And all of a sudden she's confronted with somebody who is completely on her side, because Chris did a great job pre-interviewing. he knew how to filter them out. That's why also there was that Duping Delight video when she was asked, how do you feel? What is it like? And so on and so on. And she was used to dealing with the so-called haters, but she was not used to dealing with support. I picked up the phone and called my husband. That is completely unnecessary. How do you call your husband without picking up the phone? Be it the cell phone or be it the wall phone. And called my husband and I said, I can't find him. So when she says, the script will kick in. But she is searching for the right intro or the right way to cross over from one to the next. I can't find him. And he was like, what do you mean? He's not in the effing house, blah, 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 blah. I can't find our son. The emphasis here is to tell us that Chris Proudfoot had no clue at this point. It's very important. And she stretches it out. I picked up the phone, I called my husband, and I said, I can't find him. You could have just said, I called my husband and told him Sebastian isn't here, but she didn't say that. She wants to dramatize it. And again, she does not use Sebastian's name at all. There's a certain closeness she is avoiding. And that also comes from the experiential memory of what took place. She cannot get herself to say, I love you, to her son. Now, mind you, Chris was not close to your son at all. But you were at times when Chris was not around. If you had the chance to reach Sebastian via television or YouTube or via any kind of channel, why would you say, we love you, we miss you? Why wouldn't you say, I love you, I want you home no matter what, please come? Why do you need to include a guy who told you he doesn't like your son, it's me or him, and who beat him viciously with a belt? That doesn't make any sense. You cannot get yourself to say, I love you, I miss you. She cannot do it. That may break her. She needs to emotionally distance herself from the actual events. So she rushes through something that is scripted because she cannot allow herself to get too much emotional experiential memory into her statements. That will be too hard for her. So she says, I can't find our son. Basically, she wants to give us the illusion that there was a loving home, our son. Chris made it very clear many times, you a little retard, and so on. That was never his son. That was not his son. And what do you mean? Is it that's important to bring this in here? This was a question, how did you feel? Or what did you do? How did you react? I looked and I looked and I looked and I couldn't find him. So I called my husband and then we called law enforcement together. That would have been a short, crisp statement that makes a lot more sense than what she is dragging out. She is portraying a certain image that, of course, since then we have realized is the complete opposite from what really happened and what really was. And especially when you see how Chris Proudfoot talks now about Sebastian. There was no our son, that was not his son. He never felt like that was his son. He is known for defecating and peeing in his pants. Do people talk like this about their own children? Even Katie Proudfoot, she says things, she makes excuses. When Katie Proudfoot talks about her son being overly stimulated, she mentions what she thinks she needs to mention. Maybe she's thinking about an upcoming trial, and maybe she will be asked, why did you give him as much medicine, as much sleep aid, causing what happened to happen? Maybe she will tell us later on, well, as I said to you, he gets overstimulated. As I said to you, he wouldn't sleep. As I told you, he gets rambunctious. A missing boy being rambunctious, that's what you remember. He would be, if he actually was lost somewhere, he would be scared, cold, frightened. But you don't think about him in a moment. You only think about what you didn't like about him and why you think he is no longer there, meaning the blame was on him. I'm sorry, but he was so rambunctious and he got in your face, he didn't respect my space, he crapped on himself, he played Minecraft, which other kids don't like, he was awkward, which is complete nonsense with the Minecraft thing. Just go to Google and ask Google what the most popular game is among teenagers, among teenage boys. Minecraft. So he is looking for ways to make Sebastian look weird and less appealing to you. He didn't expect Dog the Bounty Hunter to use his popularity to bring the case back to us. And even though all of these channels out there are not really talking about Sebastian, but really infighting, still it keeps Sebastian's name out there actually. I mean, I give credit where due, and I don't like any of these channels. I don't really care what side they are on. I'm not on anybody's side, except the person who is suffering. And the person who was suffering. And Sebastian was suffering throughout his life. And Seth, he is suffering. And aside from that, I'm not sure. Definitely not the Proudfoots or the Bowersaxes, not according to the language they are using. About Seth's mother, I don't know. I have read something about her a long time ago, but I'm not really sure. And she hasn't hit my radar. I'm focused on what I believe is going to help us get some answers here. I can't find our son, he's not in the house, something like that. She repeats something, but now the more important parts begin. And I jumped in my car. Right. You like, again. And I drove around the neighborhood and I drove right by around the school or something like that. Sometimes she's very hard to understand when she talks fast and she tries to get her script done with very quickly, and it often overlaps because she needs to give it a little bit of a personal touch. She can't just take a piece of paper and read from it, so she does get confused and messes up sometimes, and that's very reasonable when you have to follow a script that is far from the experiential memory, from which you could simply recite and think a little bit. You wouldn't need the and the like, you could just tell us what happened. Very simple and very quickly. And these long statements from her, the more she talks, the less she actually says. I jumped in my car and I drove around the neighborhood and I drove by around the school and he's already. And this part, ladies and gentlemen, is one that's been pointed out to me several times. Who is already? What type of experiential memory may be slipping into this? He's already dead? Sebastian is already gone? Did you drive around? As I have read recently, she was seen and just sped right through it without stopping. Is it that experiential memory kicked in? Of you thinking, why am I wasting my time? He's already gone, he's already dead, he's not here for sure. Something is slipping in here. And of course, immediately she tells us, I was like, she needs that qualifier to remind herself, okay, this is just me scripting things, this is just I don't want to be held accountable for these words. I don't want them to come back to me. I don't want to be questions later. This is just something I have to get in there. I was like hysterical, and I was crying. I was screaming. You see, she's telling us all of the things that would be normal for the mother of a missing child to do. But when you look at the real cases where the mother had nothing to do with it, they do not go through the theatricals. They don't tell you about themselves. They don't say, I was hysterical, I was crying, I was screaming. They will tell you what happened or what didn't happen. I went to the school. I asked some people and looked around. I was there for 30 minutes and I went back to my car to drive somewhere else because I saw no traces of him, something like that. You wouldn't say again and again that you were emotional, that you were hysterical. And why are you so calm right now? Your son is still not found. And at that point, Chris does now at the following part, she gets stuck. I think it was like 3 minutes into the Chronicles of Olivia interview that you can also listen to. And he was like, now here is a major shift, and we can tell. Chris is reminding her, stick to the script. Keep getting through this. You can do it. She gets extremely stuck. And the conflict between the experiential memory and the script is very highly visible. I have not seen her get as stuck in any of the other interviews. He is already. Remember that, he is already. That is her thinking, what the heck am I doing here? There is no point. What am I pretending to look for? He's already gone. Sebastian is already gone. The priority to her was that she picked up the phone and that Chris had no idea supposedly what happened. What do you mean? Then she portrays themselves as a happy family, our son, and she talks about how she was hysterical, crying and screaming. And before, how she was saying, where the F is he? She didn't tell us that she was screaming, where are you? Where the F are you? Sebastian, where are you? None of that. She is not repeating what she supposedly said. She wants us to believe that she said something. Let me make sure that this is very clear. How did you react? I screamed, where the F are you? Sebastian, where are you? Instead, she says, I was like, where the F is he? She doesn't state that she yelled for him. She doesn't state that she called out his name. She was hollering. Well, maybe there was a hollering time, sometime, but that was not it. You were not hollering, you were not yelling out for your son. We cannot put words into people's mouths. We can never say, well, she told us that she was saying, where the F are you? No, she told us. I was like, where the F is he? Not where the F are you? And again, maybe I will now make another video where I'm going to transcribe all of that. It is important. What I wanted to get to first was the part that's been pointed out to me so many times that I will now introduce you to it. And more than anything, the language she uses. And he was like he three-weight law enforcement, and was telling them like like the disclaimer, our son was missing. It's again very important. Our son was missing, and we don't know what's going on. Unity, complete unity with Chris Proudfoot. So much unity that is unexpected when a mother cannot find her child. In that moment, it would be more expected to just be her and the child. I cannot find my son. Where is my son? I cannot find Sebastian. But there is a relaxed sense of unity between her and Chris Proudfoot. We don't know what's going on. Wow. What do you mean? We don't know what's going on. Really? Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. Really? You're calling the police? Which was, by the way, not the 911 emergency line. So there was no sense of emergency, people. The sense of emergency. She is hysterical, crying, screaming. And you are calling what? You're calling a non-emergency line? Really? Really? You're losing your mind. That would be expected. You're losing your mind. Women don't care about what the rules are for when you can officially report a child missing when the child is missing. They don't care about that. They will break any rule. They have to be calmed down by somebody. They will freak out. Be it an officer, a friend, a husband, a family member. They have to be calmed down by somebody because they are going crazy. And that is expected. They are not talking about going crazy, but they are showing it. And it is usually reported by a third party who was there. The woman wouldn't say any. The women who are innocent, they're going to talk about their children who are missing, not about themselves, what they were doing, looking for the child. That is insignificant. It is normally, you will see it in a documentary at a later point where a neighbor said, yeah, wow, I was completely heartbroken and shattered to see how she was screaming. The house was already searched. She's still running around screaming her daughter's name, and she was hysterical and had to be calmed down. A female police officer and two female friends came, had to comfort her. Those are the stories that you hear later from other people. You don't have it as an autobiography. That is not credible at all, people. And he was telling them something like, our son was missing and we don't know what's going on. That is the important part, people. That is important for her, that they don't know the alibi. She had to get this in. We don't know what's going on. If you report your son missing, police doesn't even know. Do you know where he is? Because you already said he is missing. Police may ask you, where was he last seen? What was he doing? Was there a fight? Did he run away before? Did he have friends in the area? Is there anything that we should know? Police wouldn't ask you, do you know what's going on? No, that's why I'm calling you, you idiot. And he was like, go back to the house, they're on their way. Go back to the house, they're on their way. And I now, what experiential memory could be slipping in here of her running back to the house? Of course she corrects herself, well, drove back. But the fact that she feels a need to correct herself also points out that this was a sensitive mistake. She feels a need to correct herself. Now imagine your child is missing and you say, I ran back to the house, and if you used an incorrect word, well, drove back to the house. Really? Are you giving a speech right now? Or are you reaching out to people? That's not your priority. Damage control, that's the priority. The haters, the negativity. That's why the Proudfoots gave these interviews until they finally stopped, and then they appeared on all of these lives that are benefiting from them being on there. So they are letting the Proudfoots know, whatever you want to say, you got the platform, baby, just show up, just come on. Which of course can be the worst thing. The worst thing for a guilty person can be an interview by somebody who's on their side, or somebody who's very neutral and says, tell me what happened. My favorite is still, what do you know? Open-ended questions where they are forced to start somewhere that they choose to start at. I forgot, but I saw recently another interview, and I started watching the Gabby Petito American Murder documentary, and I forgot where it was, but there was something where A journalist asked a question. Well, let me keep it a little more general. When a journalist asks a question and gives them the options to choose from, that is a worthless interview in the making, not suited for statement analysis. So what did you do? Did you go here or there? Or what did you do is good enough. For dramatic purposes, maybe you want to sound like a great investigator or a great journalist, or no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be the pushy cop either, who says, you did it, didn't you? Let me tell you exactly what happened. No, you don't want to do that. Because then the statements are useless, because when you push somebody into the corner, they are going to more likely give a direct denial, or if they don't do it, they may react to something else that you said. They may hang on to that one piece of wrong information you're accusing them of. And you may say, no, I didn't walk by that 7-Eleven. Something insignificant, where the interviewer or the police officer guesses something wrong in his own theory. And you will often see people who are guilty, they will close in on that one thing where they can prove the journalist or the police officer wrong. And that's a very easy out that you don't want to give anybody. You want to let them speak. And that's why the Chronicles of Olivia video interview is so great, because she is on their side. She doesn't push. Chris has no chance to say, you're a hater, you're negative. He has no chance to just sit there and say yes ma'am and no ma'am, like he did with Nancy Grace, which was a terrible interview, by the way. There was nothing I gotten out of it of any value. If you want to play the tough cop on TV, well, you got your show and people like it. I don't. I like information, not a theater, not a circus. No matter how hated a person may be, that's good for ratings to attack them publicly. It is not good for the investigation. It's actually completely useless. They're on their way and I ran back. Is that experiential memory from the night before? When she found out he's already no longer with us? Did she run back to the house after she found out he's no longer with us? We need to remember the dogs picking up the scent at the retention pond. We need to also think about the videos that we have seen, the enhancements. Who were these people? Was it Chris and Katie in the middle of the night? Was it a body that they carried out? Did they carry it first to the retention pond for some reason? We need to look deeper into this, because it is very obvious that Katie Proudfoot is covering something up. And through her language she indicates more and more what it was. He is already. Experiential memory kicking in. She stops herself. He's already, I think she said there. I may have missed an But you know what? There are so many here. You can see them. I don't even need to circle them anymore. Did at one point she want to get rid of his body? Or him, and she realized he's already gone? His face fell to the bottom. She medicated him. She doesn't want to tell. They don't want to tell how much medicine he took that night. Any other night is okay. Any another night, daily and nightly, but that night, no, we cannot tell you that. How much food he had. Why is she telling us that? Because he gets overstimulated and rambunctious. And he growls at you. He gets very aggressive. Yes. You push a child too much, even though he's a lot weaker than Chris. You cannot oppress a child consistently and not expect a reaction. How much did he have to endure in order to growl, actually? Think about that. Everything Katie tells us paints a real picture of what it was like for Sebastian. Now, we have been hearing too much from Chris Proudfoot from his view. What do you think Sebastian would say if he was somewhere safe? I mean, completely 100% safe, surrounded by people who love him, being reassured, no matter what you tell us, you will never have to even see Chris Proudfoot again. You will be with Seth. Seth has the means now to take care of you. You will be completely 100% safe. Maybe Seth will have a girlfriend who is, already 100% on board with helping take care of you. Which in an ideal situation would probably be the case. I'm sure there are many women who think, wow, I would love to be in the position and just help making his life better and being with a loving father. Well, Seth supposedly beat Sebastian a couple of times. Let me not go into this because I am not privy, as Chris Proudfoot would say, to divulge information that I don't actually have. I stay away from things that are not proven, but I'm still human, which is why I shield myself from listening to long interviews rather than getting straight to the statements which are given for a reason and which reveal the reason. We drove back to the house and fast forward 20 days later, we haven't found him. Yes, we know. This interview was 20 days later. We haven't found him.